In the United States today, agonistic attitudes towards Islam and Muslims are prevalent for all to see. For many Americans, these views are manifest in the form of Christian Zionism, a perspective that emphasizes Israel as an evangelical commitment to God. Historians trace Christian support for Israel all the way to the Protestant Reformation. Puritans in England supported a Jewish gathering in Palestine because it was believed that since Puritanism was so similar to Judaism, once exposed to it, Jews would convert to Christianity. And, according to Old Testament prophecies, Jewish return to their homeland would precipitate the second advent of Christ. The early settlers that started the Plymouth colony in 1620 brought prayers for a Jewish home in Palestine. By the 19th century, these prayers found a political voice. As John Adams wrote, "I really wish the Jews again in Judea an independent nation. Once restored to an independent government and no longer persecuted, they would wear away some of the asperities and peculiarities and possibly in time become liberal Unitarian Christians." To this day, the writings by Adams in 1819 are used to justify, historicize, normalize, and even reinforce the legitimacy of contemporary American support for the State of Israel. However, the full context points to a bigoted underbelly of anti-Jewish sentiment and the wistful hope for Jewish conversion to Christianity. As support for a Jewish homeland continued to grow among evangelicals, attitudes towards Muslims began to change. In July 1785, at the prompting of his British allies, the Bey of Algiers declared war on the United States. Americans were emergent actors in Mediterranean shipping, and Algiers wanted to solidify its alliance with Britain and exercise its maritime preeminence over the young United States. 3 American vessels were seized off the coast of North Africa. News of American captives quickly drew the attention of readers in the United States, spawning a new literary genre, North African captivity narratives. Given the literary allegories, the religious symbolism, the redemptive tropes, as well as the salacious subtext, it is no surprise that these books became popular throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. America was defining itself based on the traditions it claimed, and the rejection of the traditions it deemed to belong to the other. Islam, firmly on the outside of the new American identity, needed to be subdued, contained, and overpowered. By the time of the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, several evangelical Christians came to think the countdown to the return of Jesus had begun. Evangelical preachers built reputations and congregations by blending American patriotism with evangelical Christianity, with one prominent writer noting how the newfound Jewish possession of the Holy Land gave the students of the Bible a thrill and a renewed faith in the accuracy and validity of the Bible. This faith made possible the formation of Christians United for Israel, an organization with over 8 million members that defines itself as a national grassroots movement focused on the support of Israel. Gottlieb and Hagler of Religious News Service wrote, "Anyone who actually listens to CUFI's leader, the Reverend John Hagee, will be horrified at the meeting's toxic blend of anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, Islamophobia, and sexism." Nevertheless, CUFI is among the largest pro-Israeli organizations active in the United States and one of the most potent Christian evangelical groups in support of Israel. Today, several religious leaders are pushing back against Christian Zionism. Bob Roberts Jr., the founding pastor of Northwood Church in Keller, Texas, wants to dispel the fear that his fellow Americans have of Islam and Muslims. And Jim Wallace, preacher and founder of evangelical magazine Sojourners, is working to change the way in which religious justifications of Israeli apartheid are going unchecked. But while the work of Roberts and Wallace is necessary, interfaith work alone is not enough. Christian Zionism is sold as a means of establishing a lasting ally in the Middle East, but in fact, it is paving the way for war. Christian Zionism is motivated not for the flourishing of Jewish people, but for a focus on end times and the second advent of Christ. We as Americans have to be vigilant about the eschatology seeping into our foreign policy, the portrayals of Muslims in the media, and the ways in which we educate future generations.